My coachees frequently describe me as being professional, calm, and a great listener. And I do believe that it's being a great listener that is the first and fundamental thing that people really appreciate. I often spend a lot of time with people in the first session, getting them to really tell me their story. I believe that everybody has a story about how we come to be where we are, and having the opportunity to tell me that tells me a lot about that person as well.
The consistent message I get back is that I provide a calm environment, an environment where they can really think and reflect. A safe environment where they're able to share whatever they want to share. And know that I'm listening and that I'm going to pick up on what's being said, but also what's not being said.
In terms of how my coachees would describe my style, I hope they would say that I'm really warm and supportive. I know that they also say that I bring crystal clarity. In other words, I'm very direct. And I like to combine that in a really supportive way to, at the right time when they have been heard and felt acknowledged, that they can then be challenged in the way that they need to be challenged.
So I think my coaching style picks up on a mix of my consulting background and experience and my coaching ideology and training and way of thinking. What's most important to me is that when we start working together, the clients have a really strong sense of self, are feeling really grounded and rooted in who they are, so that any time they're asking me to bring in different ideas or different input, or I'm sharing examples of perhaps what other leaders have done in their context from other industries, that they're able to filter that and choose what works for them.
What I often say to people in chemistry sessions as well is that I do believe that you can almost imagine coaching and the way that I approach coaching as being a bit like a spectrum. And at one end of the spectrum is what I would describe as pure coaching. It's the training that I originally went through in order to become a coach. And the philosophy at that end of the spectrum is that I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to reflect things back, and I'm going to ask you great questions. But that's going to help you to come up with all the answers and solutions yourself. At the other end of the spectrum, I see teaching and training. In my coaching work, do I move up and down this spectrum? Yes, I definitely do. Because over the years, I have collected a whole toolbox, a toolkit with things that I will take out depending on what it is that the coachee wants to think about and the challenges that they are facing.
How would my coachees describe me? I guess quite purposeful, but also quite light-hearted. So I tend to ground things in the psychology theory that I've learned. I'm quite a geek about that, I guess. But at the same time, I think that 90% of coaching is about empathy, it's about meeting people. And I got a lovely quote from one of my clients who just texted me out the blue at Christmas and said, "Thank you for meeting me in the place that I was rather than the place where people wanted me to be." And I think that's so important, that people who are being coached feel unequivocal support from their coaches and get a sense that they're not at work necessarily, they're in this other place.
So I believe my coachees would describe me as warm, empathetic, and someone who listens with real curiosity. I think that would be perhaps their foundational piece in it. I think then it would be around this probably duality, a duality of someone who'd walked in their shoes as a senior leader, who'd been a CEO for a period of years and had worked as a senior leader for many years.
What my clients will say at the end of a session or in testimonial will be often initially just a huge sense of relief that they feel from being heard and acknowledged, and that's kind of our starting point. That's the starting point for the work, right? If they feel safe, if they feel comfortable, if they feel like they're not the only one experiencing this, that reassurance, that's often what they will get early on from working with me. Then later on, what some of the clients have said is that they've often brought this dilemma, this big, heavy dilemma to me, which is I'm at a certain point in my career. I have a lot I still want to achieve, but I also have a family, or I have other things I want to do. I've worked really hard and I want to enjoy some of that. Can I do both? And so one of the big sort of things that I do with my clients is help them, because we get clear on their vision, we get clear on how they can do the things they need to inside the organisation. I call them the unwritten rules of sort of career success. And so those are the things that I think people find afterwards that have really helped them going forward.
I think experimentation and challenge is really important. So being open to creativity, and when we're trying to shift behaviour, which is really hard, calling it an experiment, saying, well, let's try showing up in this way, or let's try having this type of conversation, and then we'll see how it fits. And so ultimately it's that creativity and challenge around trying something different, but with the safety of knowing that it really is all about the individual and choosing what's right for them.
A lot of the feedback that I get back from coachees that I've worked with is that they like the way that I reflect back to them what I'm seeing and hearing in a different way to how it came out from them, which allows them a different perspective and new possibilities. Quite often, I'm reflecting back an incoherence in between what they're saying and how they're coming across.
I think the other thing that coachees often say to me is this balance in coaching between support and challenge. I think most people would describe me as a very supportive coach, and yet I also know that I do challenge, and when I know that people want more challenge, I often laugh about the fact that I will almost imagine that I'm the prosecution barrister, and depending on exactly what it is, then I might give them a little bit more of a hard time.
The more senior the leader who works with me, the more challenge they want, because most of these leaders recognise that they're not going to get this within their business. No one in your business is incentivised to be truly honest, because you pay their salary, right? And we're human, and we want to be tribal, we want to be in the group, we don't want to do something that jeopardises our safety. So people aren't incentivised to be really honest, but what a coach can do is anonymise some of that information gathering, so you get more honesty, and also provide a mirror to what they see.
I'm coaching somebody currently who's a partner in a private equity firm, and he came to me with an issue about getting frustrated and taking very personally any kind of bumps in the road where it came to his portfolio companies or his investment decisions. He was unable to depersonalize them. And so we worked on that as a habit loop, as a bad habit from James Clear's Atomic Habits. We worked out that what he was doing was, as soon as he heard there was a problem, he would overreact quite badly. And in his overreaction, he wouldn't ask for any help. He would just burn the midnight oil and bore the ocean, such as to try and find all the answers himself, and get frustrated and a little bit grumpy with people around him. And it wasn't really a sustainable situation, neither was it kind of preferable for anybody. So he and I worked on that as a loop and how to break it. And the point was going to pause at point 2, the point when he was feeling that he was personally responsible, feeling triggered by that, to pause and take a breath and ask for some help and consult. And by some magic, he did that really effectively in the first month break between our first 2 sessions. And he said that everybody noticed. He said his colleagues noticed, his boss noticed, he said, but most importantly, my wife noticed, and that he was a better dad as a result.